5 haunted tales of a sinister cabin in the wrong forest revealed terrifying secrets. Sarah felt the weight of despair as she gripped the steering wheel, heading deeper into the woods, Jake silent beside her. The stories from locals stalked her mind like ghosts. They had all warned them about the wrong forest. Whispers of disappearances, of families who had ventured in only to vanish without a trace. Each mile pushed them farther from familiar comfort, a decision born from grief, now tinged with dread. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, and paranoia crept in. What had they stepped into? The cabin stood crooked beneath towering pines, draped in a blanket of ivy and unsettling beauty. Crimson sunsets bathed everything in blood-red hues, but instead of enchantment, a chill wormed its way into Sarah's chest. There was something off about it, all too serene, all too still. Inside, the cabin was decorated with faded photographs of the family who'd lived there before. Their blissful smiles felt jarringly out of place, as if they were unaware of the terror lurking just out of sight. On their first night, as darkness swallowed the world outside, disquiet crept in like an unwanted guest. Unfamiliar howls echoed in the stillness, each one cutting through the air like a knife. Jake's wide eyes met hers, a silent plea for reassurance. "Just the wind," she whispered, but doubt clawed at her throat. She tucked him in, her heart racing, listening. The shadows seemed to whisper secrets as they danced outside the window. Was it just her imagination? Or were they being watched? Suddenly, their cell phones flickered, then went dark, and eerie silence enveloped them. She could feel the panic rising, tightening around her like a noose. "It's just bad reception," she tried to convince herself. But when Jake asked if they could go home, a cold sweat prickled on her skin. She forced a smile and told him to get some rest. As she lay awake, she saw figures flitting past the window, just out of reach, edging toward the nightly spectacle, a terror that gnawed at her sanity. The morning brought a false sense of security. Desire for adventure pushed them to explore the dusty library shelf in search of an escape from their own grief. What they found were photographs, faded and torn. A family caught in horror, a child's eyes wide with an awful truth, the adults frozen in terror. Sarah's throat tightened as clarity washed over her. The stories were real. The ugly past of this place was clawing its way into their present. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, the air thickened with an ominous tension. Shadowy branches outlined their small cabin like prison bars, as deep growls echoed through the dense underbrush. Jake was breathing heavily, terror reflected in his eyes, while Sarah felt the grip of fear squeeze tighter. They hadn't just taken a trip. They'd stumbled into a malevolent web spun from past blood. Determination coursed through her. She needed to get them out of this nightmare. Just as she made plans to leave, creaking sounds startled her. A low growl arose, reverberating through the twilight. Outside, restless figures hovered by the tree line, a terrifying urge to trap and consume lingering in the suffocating air. Standing frozen, Sarah felt the icy tendrils of dread clutch her heart. They weren't alone. They were being watched, and whatever lurked in that forest wanted more than just to frighten them. The whisper of wind carried a promise of terror, and with it, the realization settled this retreat was the beginning of their fight for survival. Could they escape the clutches of a fate entwined in the dark fabric of that haunted forest? The tension of the moment snapped like a tightrope underfoot. Sarah could almost hear the sinister anticipation of whatever was hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Jake's whimper broke through the stillness, and she was jolted into action. "We have to move. Now." In a flash, she grabbed her jacket and Jake's hand, heart pounding as she led him toward the door. It creaked open slowly, as if protesting the movement. The air outside was rife with an unnatural chill. The growls had intensified, filling the forest with a languid menace. Each step away from the cabin felt like a betrayal of their only sanctuary, but the alternative was unbearable. "Mom, where are we going?" Jake's voice trembled, laced with fear. "There's a road somewhere nearby. We can find it and get help." She clung tightly to his small hand, moving deeper into the trees. The shadows enveloped them, their former refuge now hostile territory. Each gust of wind felt like a whisper, a warning echoing just out of comprehension. As they progressed, thorns snagged at her jeans, and branches reached out like skeletal fingers. The growling morphed into a cacophony of snarls, closing in around them. Panic pressed against her chest, and every instinct screamed to turn back. But doing so would mean inviting the darkness inside again. The palpable weight of unseen eyes bore down upon them. "Stay close to me, Jake," she murmured, trying to steady both their breaths. But he faltered, suddenly stopping in place, wide-eyed and trembling. "Mom, look." At the base of a twisted tree, something blurry shifted in the moonlight. It curled among the roots, glinting maliciously. Eyes, dozens of them, stared back at them. Sarah's throat tightened. The creatures were grotesque, half-formed, as if the forest itself had rejected them, spawn of whatever malevolence festered here. "Run!" she shouted, yanking Jake away. They darted, the underbrush snapping beneath their feet, limbs clawing at them like vengeful spirits. Behind them, animalistic yelps erupted, a symphony of rage and hunger. Grass and leaves crunched underfoot, stealing precious seconds. She risked a glance over her shoulder. The creatures darted after them, wizened faces taut with urgency. Fear made her legs feel heavy, and she pushed through, urging Jake to keep up. A clearing came into view, moonlight spilling like salvation. "This way," she cried. But just before they crossed into the light, something sharp wrapped around her ankle, pulling her down. "No!" she screamed. Jake, eyes wide with terror, staggered backward, helpless to save her. The weeds tightened like a vice, dragging her toward the darkness that waited hungrily beyond the glow of the moonlight. "Mom!" He lunged forward, but she waved him back, sweat and tears mingling on her face as desperation fought hard. "Run, Jake! You have to go." He hesitated, a child trapped between loyalty and survival. But the shrieks grew louder, and a primal warning flared in his eyes. He turned, sprinting into the clearing. "Don't look back. Just run," she shouted, her voice muffled by the earth. As he fled, the noise enveloped him, a chorus of guttural sounds filling the air with the promise of vengeance. She was losing him, losing the only thing that mattered in this twisted nightmare. The forest's dark pull intensified, her body sinking deeper into the earth. She clawed at the roots, but they coiled tighter, a sinister embrace. Despair clawed at her throat as her heart raced, each thump echoing the terror of impending doom. And then she saw it. A flash of silver, a figure looming amidst the shadows. It stepped forward, its mouth twisted in an unsettling grin. She froze, dread electrifying her veins. Was this her savior or the end? Just as darkness pulled her vision away, a scream erupted from the depths of the woods, a child's voice that echoed helplessly, twisting her heart with dread. Inside, her thoughts raced. For Jake, for the family she'd lost, she had to fight. Did she have it in her to face what lurked in the shadows? What had she really awakened in this wrong forest? In the grim silence that followed, shadows shifted again, signaling more than just danger. Sarah's blood chilled, knowing that whether she would find Jake again depended on unlocking the secrets buried deep within those monstrous trees. Was she ready to face the horror that awaited her? The world warped around her as Sarah thrashed against the roots, tightening their grip. Panic surged through her veins as the sound of Jake's footsteps faded into the distance. She fought harder, clawing at the earth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice raw and hoarse. Something shimmered out of the corner of her eye, a wisp of movement, but the moment passed too quickly. The creature in the shadows approached, its slender body weaving through the trees with unnatural grace. Laughter, twisted and dark, echoed from its distorted mouth. It was toying with her. "Mom!" Jake's distant voice pierced through the cacophony. His call set off an electrifying shock of fear, the notion that he might not be safe another instant. She writhed against the roots, their grip hardening, almost sentient in their urge to claim her for whatever evil lurked beneath the surface of the forest. The figure stepped closer, its grin widening, revealing row upon row of jagged teeth. Those glistening eyes held a strange, not quite human intelligence, reflecting the fractured light like shards of glass. "You took too long," it hissed, its voice slick like oil. "Now he is mine." "No!" Sarah screamed, her voice breaking. Adrenaline surged again, igniting a new resolve. With one fierce pull, she broke the hold of one root, just enough to yank her ankle free. She scrambled to her feet and sprinted toward the sound of Jake's voice, desperation fueling her legs. The forest felt alive, branches curling down to claw at her as she dodged deeper into the shadows, feeling the weight of the unseen creature still lurking behind her. "Keep calling for me, Jake," she shouted as she stumbled through a tangle of air thick with dampness and decay. "Mom!" His call cracked like a whip through the musty air. Then silence, a silence that sent a shiver through her body. "Mom!" There was fear and urgency in Jake's voice, now localized. It was nearer. She emerged through a thicket into a small clearing, breathless, heart racing, reality nearly slipping away. But the terror of the forest was no longer merely behind her, it enveloped her. Dark tendrils snaked across the ground, slowly, deliberately closing in, forming a circle around her. "Jake!" she cried out again, but the only answer was the rustling leaves, mocking her with their whispers. "Over here! I can see you!" Jake's small voice rose again, terrified yet hopeful. He appeared on the other side of the clearing, framed by the shadows creeping toward him. "Jake, don't move!" she shouted, panic flaring. But he was entranced, eyes wide with shock, unable to see the danger inching toward him. "Come to me, Jake," she begged, fear twisting in her stomach. The creature reappeared, gliding through the dark. It was different this time, angrier. "You cannot save him," it rasped, thick with menace. Sarah's blood ran cold. The forest seemed to pulse, the trees creaking ominously, as if responding to the creature's threat. "Stay away from him," she yelled, stepping forward, fists clenched, but dread boiled within her. She could feel the ground beneath her shift. They were shifting closer, a mass of limbs twisted and gnarled. Each step felt heavier, as though the forest conspired to keep her from Jake, to drag her back into its darkness. "Mom, please!" The pleading in her son's eyes ignited something primal inside her. She lunged toward him, each heartbeat thudding against time. But as her foot struck the clearing, the laughter filled the air, a sickening echo that froze her in place. "Let us make a deal," the creature crooned, its voice dripping with malice and sweetness. "What?" Sarah dared to ask, her thoughts racing, desperation morphing into something more. Your life for his. In that horrid moment, the weight of her decision pressed heavily. There was a glimpse of a world where she could save him in exchange for her own life, but at what cost? As she wrestled with that narrow pathway of despair, shadows began to fold and shift, revealing faces from the past. She realized that perhaps the forest wasn't trying to take her. It wanted to show her something far more terrifying, memories she had thought buried, once loving, now twisted into nightmares. Sarah, the shadows whisper, echoing in her mind, pulling her back to forgotten moments. Let him go. But rage and despair melded into a blood-chilling clarity. What had she awakened, and what was it willing to take to keep her son safe? And then it dawned on her. Escape wasn't a path away. It was facing the truth of her choices, her past sins, as the shadows converged. Would she confront the darkness she'd avoided all her life? Each second ticked by, thick with tension, riding the edge of horror. Was she ready to live the nightmare, or risk it all to pull her son back from the brink? The shadows whispered, dragging Sarah deeper into the heart of her past, the tendrils reaching out to entwine her consciousness. Memories flickered like anxious flames, revealing moments long buried, the laughter of friends long gone, the warmth of family lost to time, the dark mistakes that had carved cracks in her life. She felt their influence wash over her, each flash urging her to remember, each dark face twisted into the grotesque forms of regret. Mom! Jake's voice drew her back, like a lifeline tossed into an abyss. No! She shouted as she clawed at the ground, desperate to break free from the dark embrace of the memories threatening to consume her. Her heart raced. The realization struck her. She had to push through the veil of shadows to save him. Her own darkness must be faced if they were to escape the encroaching doom. The creature laughed, a sharp, hideous cackle that echoed against the trees, each bark vibrating with malice. You think you can save him without paying the price? It glided closer, determination gleaming in its ravenous eyes. The shadows pulsated around it, as if they were drawn to its dark energy, hungry for chaos. Let him go. What do you want from me? Sarah's voice trembled but held an edge of defiance. She met the creature's gaze, the heat of her fear igniting into a blaze of rage. I want you to remember, it said, its tone silky and sinister. The forest shifted again, dimension melding into a nightmarish tapestry of her life as failures. Shadows contorted into scenes of her past arguments, silent treatments, moments she wished she could erase. Your perfect life, which wasn't so perfect at all. With each frame played out in her mind, she felt the weight of her choices pressing down harder. Would she relive the horror? The guilt? Her breath quickened, each recollection another chain pulling her into darkness. Mom! Jake's cry pierced through the clamor of her emotions, pulling her back from the edge. He was still there, still needing her. Please! She lunged toward Jake, fighting against her past. The darkness writhed, coiling tightly around her legs. It needed her to surrender, to give in to despair. No! I want to let you take him. But the roots dug deeper into the ground, their grip unyielding. In a burst of desperation, Sarah reached within herself. The shadows clawed at her, but she rummaged through the chaos for the one truth she held onto. The love she had for her son was stronger than any regret. It's not just about me, she screamed, the resolve igniting from her core, and with that, a blinding light burst forth, pushing against the encroaching darkness. I will save him. Unraveling her memories, she drew strength from the good, the love she had shared, letting it shine like a beacon against the shadow. The air crackled, shifting, twisting as if the forest itself felt her fervor. The roots inched back slightly, startled by the force of her determination, but the creature recoiled, fury boiling in its features. You dare resist? You cannot escape your fate. Lightning skittered through the trees, illuminating the clearing, casting horrific shadows that danced wildly, lifting the veil of dread hanging heavily in the air. Sarah stilled, seeing Jake still trapped in the opposite circle, paralysis gripping him. Mom, please? His fear-filled eyes urged her on. In that flicker of desperation, she knew the stakes were higher than ever. Drawing a breath, she focused all her energy, willing it toward him. I will not abandon you. Rumbling thunder roared around them, echoing her fight against fate. Yet there it was, an unfathomable darkness still gnawing at the edges, threatening to engulf them both. "Jake, hold on." Her voice broke free as she wove a path through the shadows, edging closer, the clearing pulsing with a breath held between the past and what she could salvage. The creature as chilling laughter swept through the clearing again. "You think your love can protect you? It will lead you to ruin." Terror clawed at her heart, but she pressed forward. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and she felt the true pull of the darkness, a desperate challenge to surrender or battle on. As the creature lunged forward, hunger etched on its face, Sarah felt a surge of power, her love emanating a light stronger than fear, stronger than the shadows. But would it be enough to save them both? The terrifying stakes rose, and in the fury of chaos, she realized she was racing against time, and time was running out. Would she reclaim her son from the clutches of darkness, or be forced to confront her own demons for eternity? A howling wind erupted, tearing through the trees, like a banshee screaming for resolution. The power of Sarah's unleashed love flickered, oscillating like a candle flame in a storm. The darkness lunged again, eager to engulf her. Just then, the light surged brighter, a barrier expanding outward, repelling the shadows that coiled around her. "Mom!" Jake's voice was a desperate whisper now, barely cutting through the violent cacophony. Sarah felt her heart race, her own breath trembling with urgency. "I'm coming for you!" she screamed, determination sharpening her focus. But the laughter of the creature echoed, overwhelming her aspirations like thunder. "You wield a fragile light, Sarah. It will fracture, and then we will feast." Its elongated fingers brushed against the edges of her radiance, sending electric sparks through her body. Suddenly, memories began to crystallize into focus, jagged pieces aligning in a haunting mosaic. Visions flickered, a mother's smile, the joy of a birthday long forgotten, the warmth of love that had once filled her heart. Each recollection, each ray of joy overriding a shadow of sorrow. It was the light of the past battling the darkness of the present. But the creature draped itself around her, like mist on a cold morning, erasing each memory that threatened its existence. "Your love is not enough," it hissed, its voice a slithering whisper that curled around her thoughts. "You still don't remember the greatest failure of all." As it spoke, shadows morphed and shaped, revealing her last days with her family. The arguments that pierced her heart, the silence that came after the day she'd lost them in the storm. She could almost hear the thunder that had claimed them, feel the weight of her own inadequacy pressing against her chest. "No!" she fought back fiercely. "I won't let those memories control me." The ground beneath her twisted and churned, threatening to swallow her whole. In this terrible moment, the darkness tightened its grip, and desperation clawed at her throat. The memory of her failures became a cacophony, each regret amplified, each mistake a ghost trying to drag her down. From the shadows, the creature's eyes glinted with anticipation, as if it thrived on her torment. "Face your truth. You left them behind, and now they will pay." A surge of energy pulsed through Sarah. The realization hit her like a sudden gust. Her journey wasn't about defeating the darkness. It was about reconciliation. Jake still needed her, and despite every fear clawing at her, the love she harbored for her son was a radiant weapon. "Jake," she called, her voice rising above the cacophony, "I need you to hold on." "I'm coming." The shadows surged, thrashing violently. She could see the outline of her son, still trapped in that opposing circle, surrounded by an oppressive gloom. She took a deep breath, the fractured pieces of her heart aligned, creating a bridge of strength. As the dark creature lunged at her, she reached outward, shouting with all her might, "I reclaim my love." Light exploded from her core, illuminating everything. Shadows retreated, shrieking and clawing, but Sarah held her ground. She could feel them dissipating, the power of her light slicing through the oppressive dark. Jake's form flickered, hope sparking within him, eyes widening as the shadow slowly released its grip, Yet the creature screeched, its twisted visage contorting with rage. You cannot prevail. Your past is your burden. It cannot be undone. With those words, a deafening blackness flooded back, swallowing the brilliance she fought so hard to maintain. One final lunge and almost grasping desperation sent Sarah stumbling back. The ground beneath her quaked with ominous power, but she wouldn't falter. The void closed in fast. As her light flickered, something deep within her shifted. A flicker of hope gave way to resolve. But the chasm was too vast. Could the love that ignited her courage bridge the abyss before it consumed them both? In the swirling chaos of darkness and light, she felt time slipping away. The ground quaked and trembled, shadows creeping closer, eager to snuff out the last of her hope. Would she be able to save Jake, or would the suffocating past capture them in its cold embrace once more? With a renewed fierceness, she lunged toward Jake, her heart pounding fiercely. Would she reach him before the shadows claimed their prize? The final seconds ticked away, heartbeats synchronized to the approaching doom. Just as Sarah made her desperate lunge toward Jake, a wild gust of wind screamed past her, chilling her to the bone. The shadows recoiled, but the darkness was cunning, twisting and weaving back into shape, more powerful than before. An ominous laughter echoed, reverberating in her very soul, taunting her resolve. Poor Sarah, the creature crooned mockingly. You think you can challenge me with thin memories and flickering lights? The ground trembled beneath her, splintering the earth into jagged fissures. Each crack absorbed the light, devouring her hope like a hungry beast. She felt her strength wavering, the brilliance she had summoned shrinking in the face of such malevolence. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out all but the creature as sinister whispers. Face what you've done, it hissed, slithering closer. The darkness wrapped around her, tightening like a serpent. You think love will save you? It left you long ago. For a moment, she faltered, a flood of shame washing over her. Memories flickered like a broken film reel, chaotic and violent. The sound of screaming, of rain lashing against the roof, the terror of that stormy night when everything changed. It burrowed into her chest, a hollow ache knotting tighter and tighter. No! She cried out, anger flaring within her. I won't let you take this from me. She dug deep, grasping for that flickering light inside her, that love for Jake that had borne her through trials. It flared again, as she seized the memories not as burdens, but as armor, powerful reminders of why she could not give in. With each heartbeat, her light intensified, illuminating the void around her. Jake! She shouted, her voice cutting through despair like a blade. Hold on. I am right here. Through the darkness, she caught a glimpse of him, the outlines of his form ghostly and faint. He was fading, trapped in the tendrils of shadow that clawed at him, gnawing on his spirit. A wave of panic surged through Sarah, nearly overwhelming her resolve. But the sight also ignited a fierce determination within her. She needed to fight. Raising her hands, she summoned everything left inside her. I reclaim my past. I reclaim my love. She roared, and with it, a radiant wave of golden light burst forth, pushing against the darkness. The creature roared in fury, a sound like 1,000 dying animals, but the light surged. It sliced through the darkness, illuminating silhouettes of figures she thought she'd forgotten, guiding her focus back to Jake. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest, as if an icy knife had pierced her heart. The creature laughed, feeding on her fear. You will never escape the consequences of your choices, never protect your son from your failures. That's not true. Sarah shouted, feeling embers of her love flicker to life. My love is my strength. It's powerful enough to shatter any darkness. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the heat of her energy. But even as they pulled back, a new terror crept into her heart. What if Jake's light went out before she reached him? What if the shadows slipped through her fingers again, dragging her deeper into the pit of despair? Jake, keep fighting, she pleaded, feeling her own energy start to wane, the cracks in her resolve deepening. Mom. His voice, tinged with desperation, clawed its way through the swirling chaos. Please. I can't hold on much longer. For a heartbeat, their connection sparked, a tender bond intertwined with desperation. With renewed vigor, she pushed forward, instinct guiding her through the vortex of horror. She sprinted, feeling the shadows claw at her, but unable to deter her, and then it happened. Just as she reached out to Jake, their fingers almost touching, the darkness surged once more, a tidal wave of despair that swept her back. In that moment, her heart sank. Somewhere in the depths of the shadows, a new voice whispered, a voice that echoed her worst fears. Your love is too late, Sarah. You failed him, and now it's time to collect. As the shadows swallowed her scream, doubt seeped into her heart. Was she too late? What would happen next? Would she and Jake be forever lost in this void? The shadows loomed, shifting ominously, and the future hung in the balance. The shadows pressed in like walls closing around Sarah. She gasped, struggling to breathe as the air thickened with dread. Jake's faint silhouette flickered, an ember struggling against the encroaching dark. Every inch closer she came, the ground trembled, a deep rumble that felt like the world was crumbling beneath their feet. Jake! She cried, the pain in her chest tightening, constricting her throat. I want to let you go. I want to abandon you. The creature's laughter twisted through the air, echoing like a twisted melody. You're so naive, Sarah. This isn't just darkness. It's your guilt, your failures feeding on your fears, binding you both. The shadows twisted grotesquely, forming a multitude of faces, each one a reflection of her regrets, her fears, the night she had lost everything. Faces of loved ones, their eyes hollow, mouths warped in silent screams. Panic surged through her veins like ice. They weren't just memories, they were judgment. Judging her for the choices that had brought her here. Enough. She screamed, summoning the flickers of warmth and light that still resided within her. She stood firm, gathering every ounce of strength. The light radiated fiercely, illuminating the darkness momentarily. But the moment was fleeting. The beast surged forward, heavy and dark, and her courage faltered. The shadows wrapped around her limbs, dragging her back, pulling her into the abyss. You think you can fight this? It crooned. You're nothing but a fleeting wish, a pathetic echo of what should have been. No! I've fought too hard. In a sudden burst, she tore through its grasp, straining toward Jake. Her heart raced viciously. The very air she breathed felt like fire, as it ignited her determination. Jake reached for me. Her hands outstretched, practically clawing through the darkness, but instead of meeting his, she felt a searing pain ripple through her. The shadows responded, feeding off her anguish, pulling her whirling memories back to that violent storm, the moment everything had shattered. Mom! Please! Jake's cries sliced through the chaos raw, panicked. She could barely discern him now, swallowed by the shadows, fading, flickering out like a dying star. Time felt heavy, suffocating her resolve. Every second stretched into an eternity, and the shadows tightened their grip, gnawing at her spirit. Suddenly, an image flashed before her, an old photo of Jake, laughing, radiant against a sunny backdrop. The memory was sharp, vibrant. It fueled her rage against the darkness creeping closer. The echoes of their shared moments became her strength, anchoring her reality. Jake! She roared, unleashing every ounce of might within her. Our love is eternal. I will not let it slip away. Just as she surged forward, a violent force slammed into her, throwing her back. The creature's form loomed larger, laughing in triumph. You think you can change your fate? You can't outrun what you become. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage a wild drum, each beat resonating with anguish and fear. But deep within that chaos, she felt a flicker of hope. That memory could guide her. She had been a mother, a fighter. A single thread of connection remained binding her to Jake. Jake, I am coming. Just hold on to that light inside you. With a newfound clarity, she channeled all her energy toward breaking the bond of despair wrapped tightly around him. But as shadows writhed violently, something shifted. Sarah felt a tremor of dread wash over her. What if breaking him free meant losing herself forever? The darkness hissed, teasing her resolve like a predator. Time is running out. Sarah, are you ready to make a sacrifice? The ground split again, and she gasped, fear gripping her heart. Was the cost too high? Desperate to avoid an answer, she lunged forward. Her fingers grazed Jake's hand, a connection of fire igniting between them. Together! She yelled, hoping he could hear her through the roar of despair. But as the shadows contorted, she could feel the world spinning wildly around them, their fates intertwined in that awful dance of darkness. Would they rise or fall together? The tapestry of shadows wound tighter, and with her last breath, a whisper slithered through her. What if this was not just about saving him? In that abyss, the question hung, trembling in the void around them. What was the price of love when the darkness demanded its due? Pulled through the labyrinth of despair, Sarah felt the moment stretch, each heartbeat amplifying her fear. The weight of the shadows tightened around her throat, choking off her screams. The creature loomed closer, its eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. Do you even understand what you're fighting for? It sneered, twisting her question like a dagger. Love is a weakness. You are tethered by your own failures, and they will drag you down to your end. With every word, the creature's form flickered, oscillating between the horrifying and the familiar. Shadows danced with memories of laughter, of hope, mingled now with screams of the lost. She could see Jake again, trapped within the pulsating darkness. Panic surged anew, flooding her senses. How could she save him when the price was her very soul? Mom! His voice sliced through her like a blade, haunting and desperate. She could see the flicker of his spirit against a backdrop of swirling shadows, caught in a spiral of darkness that threatened to consume him. I want to let you go, she shouted. Mustering all her strength, she clawed her way toward him. The air crackled, electric with desperation. The creature recoiled, a flash of surprise crossing its face. This fight wasn't over. Sarah could feel the tendrils of shadow curling around her ankles, whispering hushed doubts and fears. You're losing, Sarah. Accept it. No. Her voice echoed, powerful, tearing through the illusion of defeat. She fingered the memory of that sunny day, Jake's laughter still ringing in her ears, as if the rays of light could pierce through the abyss. And then it hit her. A surge of grief and determination flooded through. Each regret wasn't just a chain. They were her armor. Together, Jake. We are stronger than this. Her hands reached again, catching his at last. It was not just flesh. It was a bond woven through love, pain, survival. She felt the warmth of his spirit burning against the encroaching cold. But then the shadows flared, a howling tempest. You think you can save him? The creature shrieked through the growing din. You will only doom yourselves. The ground heaved violently, splitting in a rift between them. The air thickened, a palpable pressure as darkness rose from beneath. With every ounce of will, she held Jake's hand tighter. I refused to let go. All at once, the darkness coiled around them, dark tendrils lashing out viciously. The air crackled with frightened energy, and Sarah could feel despair clawing at her sanity. The ground beneath them trembled, threatening to swallow them whole. No! She shouted, the sound erupting from deep within. It felt like a battle cry echoing through the void. I choose love. I choose you, Jake. With a deafening roar, the shadows recoiled, and for the briefest of seconds, a shimmering light broke through. It cascaded around them, illuminating the nightmare, transforming the dark faces of regret into weary, but understanding visages. "Hold on," she yelled, willing the light to strengthen their bond. But just then, in that fleeting brilliance, a terrible revelation washed over her. With every fragment that flickered to life, the creature began to pulse with overwhelming power. "You think you can save your son?" it rasped. "You'll only find yourself lost." The ground beneath her surged once more, and she felt the pull of the abyss intensifying around them. The weight of darkness pressed in, and she realized was it already too late. Would they both be swallowed whole? Then, beneath oppressive shadows and harsh whispers, something snapped in Sarah. Fear turned to fierce resolve. "I will not lose myself. I will not abandon him." As the shadows writhed in rage, she planted her feet, grounding herself against the whirling chaos. Jake's face shimmered in the distance, his eyes wide with uncertainty and pleading, "Just hang on." She needed something more. With fierce abandon, she shouted into the darkness one last time, "Show me the truth." And as she did, a surge of blinding light erupted, illuminating the entire void. But in the last moment before the light consumed them, the creature hissed, its face twisting into an expression of horrifying triumph. "You've chosen. Sarah, can you handle the truth?" What lay ahead in that blinding blaze? As the shadows hissed and writhed, a terrifying answer awaited them. Would the truth be their salvation or their doom? The blinding light engulfed them, a searing wave washing over everything. It was as if the very essence of reality unraveled before Sarah. Jake's hand slipped from hers, and in that instant, she felt the icy tendrils of the abyss wrapping around her. Panic clawed at her throat. "Jake!" The voice echoed back to her hollow. The connection severed. She floated, suspended in the brilliance, then fell into darkness. The light faded, and she landed hard on a damp, cold surface. The air around her thickened like molasses, and she gasped, searching for a hint of hope. She blinked rapidly, struggling to adjust to the dimly lit surroundings. The shadows breathed in that place. They twisted like phantoms against grimy walls. Old memories scraped at her mind, teasing with familiarity yet laced with fear. The cabin was back buried deep in the woods, where nightmares whispered through the trees. "Where are you?" she whispered, her heart pounding. Each beat echoed loudly like a war drum, unsettling in the suffocating silence. She stumbled forward, knees trembling as the scent of decay filled her lungs. As she turned, the wall seemed to close in, cluttered with fragments of her fears, faces and moments imprisoned within rotting frames. Shadows flickered like broken candles, casting their sickly glow on forgotten memories. A child's laughter rang out, innocent and haunting. "Jake!" "No!" A sinister laugh erupted, reverberating through the cabin. It was the creature, its voice dripping with malice. "He won't come for you, Sarah. He is lost, just like you." "No!" Denial surged through her, adding fire to her panic. The shadows morphed into grotesque forms, limbs stretching unnaturally. They closed around her in an oppressive embrace. But amidst the fear, one image broke through the glimmer of Jake's smile, bright and warm against the dark. "Fight," she urged herself, gritting her teeth. This moment was a nightmare echoing what had already been lost: their home, their love. She couldn't forget. She wouldn't let it consume her. With newfound resolve, she pressed deeper into the cabin, feeling the cold wood beneath her fingertips. Memories surged, saturated in nostalgia yet twisted by the darkness. She found herself trembling against the door that led to the basement, the last place trapped in both memory and dread. "Do not open that." The creature snarled from the shadows, its voice laced with venom. "You don't want to see what lies beneath? You think you can confront the truth?" "Yes." Her voice trembled but held conviction. "I want to see." With a swift motion, she flung the door open. The stench of mold and rotting timber assaulted her senses, but she stepped into that abyss. Below, the darkness was thick like heavy smoke, encasing everything in a suffocating grip. Faint whispers echoed around, growing louder, licking at the edges of her sanity. "Sarah, you're too late." She could make out figures from the haze, distorted faces of loved ones twisted into expressions of anguish. Their hands reached toward her, fingers clawing as if they could pull her down into their despair. "Help us, help us!" they cried, voices intertwining, a cacophony of moans, laughter, and cries. It was unsettling, gut-wrenching. Even as she stood amidst it, the heat of the creature's presence loomed behind, suffocating and oppressive. "What is this?" she shouted, summoning her voice over the dreadful noise. "I will not help you destroy me." Suddenly, the floor groaned beneath her, a sickening creak that resonated like thunder. The air vibrated with an approaching storm of chaos. It was coming, the creature's wrath. "Face the truth, Sarah." The shadows surged forward, swallowing the light from above, pulling her deeper into darkness. "What are you really afraid of?" With strength gathered from the love she had for Jake, she closed her eyes. The truth was more terrifying than the shadows could ever conjure. But she wouldn't let them define her. Wouldn't surrender now. The shadows recoiled, screeching as she summoned a memory of light from deep within the day they first drove to that cabin. Laughter spilling over. It was genuine, warm, a stark contrast to the cold. The figure of Jake flickered momentarily at the edge of the shadows. Just a glimpse, but it propelled her forward, revealing her path through the chaos. "Jake!" she cried again, voice filled with determination. "I'm coming!" Yet even as she forged ahead, she felt the ground shift beneath her. Would she make it before it all vanished? Would she find the truth, or would it drown her forever? The final question echoed. Who, or what, would she become by facing the truth? The shadows recoiled at the sound of Sarah's voice, filled with defiance and fierce love. She braced herself against the trembling ground, the memories swirling around her, a storm of what was, and what could have been. Every regret screamed to bring her down, to remind her of the family she had lost, but she would not falter. Not now. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the thick air like a knife. "I'm coming for you." With that renewed determination, she plunged into the depths of the darkness, the foul stench wrapping around her like heavy fog. The whispers grew louder, clawing at her mind, but she focused on the warmth of Jake's love, that familiar heartbeat reverberating in her chest. The basement felt like a living entity, breathing with shadows that pulsed around her, wrapping tighter with each step. Faces broke through the darkness, distorted, their mouths moving yet no sound escaping, but their pain shattered her heart in a way that ignited her fury. "Enough!" she screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I refuse to believe this is all that is left." In that moment, she envisioned Jake's laughter, the way it lit up any room. Her fears broke through the heavy fog. "Show me," she demanded, heart racing against the memories that tried to pull her into despair. "Show me the truth." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. She found herself in a new space, an open meadow bathed in sunlight. Jake was there, younger, laughter echoing in the distance, playing tag with a puppy. The memory surged so brightly, clashing against the shadows trying to cling to her. She could see it all again, the warmth of love, the joy that once filled their lives. "Mom!" Jake called out, his young face glowing with joy. "Jake!" she cried, running forward, desperation coursing through her limbs. But just as she reached him, the meadow withered, shadows creeping from the edges, eager to consume every ray of light. "No!" she shouted. "I won't let you do this. Face us!" The creature shrieked, its voices intertwining like a sinister chorus. "Face your failures." The meadow transformed into the cabin again, its walls radiating darkness. She stumbled back, but the memories were clear now. The broken arguments, the moments of silence that stretched into years. The guilt clawed hungrily, but she recognized each face, each one was a part of her lost family trying to free themselves from this torment. "I see you," she declared, standing firm. "You are not my chains. You are my drive to fight." The shadows squirmed, the creature's laughter turning to rage. "You cannot win. Your failures are etched in stone. You cannot bring back what is lost." "No, but I can build something new." With every ounce of courage, she shouted through the chaos. "My love for Jake is stronger than this darkness. I will always fight for him." Suddenly, out of the shadows, a small spark of light ignited. It was shimmering and warm, a beacon guiding her through the tumult. That light intensified, fueled by her determination, illuminating the walls of despair that threatened to swallow her whole. With a final surge, Sarah lunged into the center of the light, feeling it sweep through her, wrapping around her heart. "Jake," she cried, knowing she had to make this about both of them. "You are my reason. I will not let you go." In a flash, she saw Jake again, scared and lost among the shadows, but now she could see him clearer. She reached out with her heart, feeling the pull of their shared bond. "Mom," he cried, and that was all she needed to propel herself forward. Sarah stepped fully into the light, feeling unbreakable, a force against the malevolence embracing her. "Together," she commanded, her voice echoing through the darkness. "Together, we will shatter this." The shadows screamed, a cacophony of anger and fear as the light expanded, eating away at their form. "No!" echoed the creature, thrashing against the brilliance. But it was too late. The warmth of their love burst through the darkness, engulfing everything, scattering the fog of despair, illuminating a path back to one another. "Jake!" Sarah screamed as she dashed across the threshold of shadows into the illuminating elegance of love and light. And just like that, she was free. Inside that radiant embrace, she found him, their fingers intertwining as they soared back together, the shadows retreating like mist under the morning sun. Joy erupted between them, filling the void with a magnetic force that tied their existence closer than ever. "I knew you'd come." Jake laughed, joy spilling out amidst the dappled sunlight. Wrapping him in her arms, tears streamed freely down Sarah's face. "I will always come for you, my love." But as they spun together in endless warmth, the chains that had once bound her began to dissolve, whispers of the past fading to silence. All that remained were the echoes of hope and love. The cabin stood behind them, forgotten and dark, a husk of the fear that once consumed them. The wrongness of that forest faded. The sun shone bright above, illuminating a road that led them home. Together, they took their first steps forward, away from the weight of the shadows, and toward the uncertain embrace of the future. And as they walked, hand in hand, into the golden light of a new day, Sarah knew one thing for sure: they were free. This was just the beginning. Now is your chance to join in. Don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Thank you for being a part of this journey.